The best gaming motherboard build. It's the base that lets the rest of your components sing, and is one of the most integral parts of your gaming PC build. It determines the rest of the components that go into it, so it's important to get the best gaming motherboard to suit the needs of your specific build, otherwise you'll have to rip everything out and start over. When it comes to motherboards packing the same chipset, there's not a huge deal of performance difference. There are several features that matter just as much, though. Do you want to be able to overclock your CPU? Do you need high-performance RAM support? Do you need a whole wall of USB ports? These are just some of the things you should consider when getting ready to purchase a motherboard. The best gaming motherboard for will also mean some level of future-proofing. That could mean a socket or chipset that can support the top-end processors, such as Intel's Z690 chipset and its Alder Lake chips, or one that has a wealth of CPU support, like AMD's X570 chipset and its enduring AM4 socket. We've tested a bunch of both AMD and Intel motherboards over the past year, from Mini ITX to ATX, so you can decide which will make the best base to build on. Number 5 on the list is XDM Mortar Wi-Fi. Grabbing one of the best Z be appealing to your inner elitist, but the sticker price shock is definitely a problem. Sure, it would be nice to have 10 gigabits LAN, 7 M.2 slots, or quad GPU support, but who really needs all that stuff? Most of us will be perfectly happy with a quality B460 motherboard, such as the MSI Mag B460M Mortar Wi-Fi. If you can put up with the memory speed limitation and have no intention of overclocking, well, with a K-series CPU anyway, then this is the kind of board that should be on your PC building wishlist. It ticks most of the important boxes, and at $150, it's reasonably priced, though the competition is tough with many premium B460 motherboards priced in this range. It's got a strong VRM configuration, 2.5 gigabits LAN, Wi-Fi 6, and adequate, if not particularly outstanding, I/O. Pairing it with a 65 watts non-K processor and having a crack at pseudo-overclocking is definitely worth the minimal efforts too. If you can live with the maximum DDR4 2666 speed, something like an Intel Core i5 10600 and B460M Mortar, paired with a decent mid-range GPU, would deliver a quality, affordable gaming combo. Number 4 on the list is Maximus 12 Extreme. If you want the best, Comet Lake motherboard, then I'm afraid you're going to have to pay for it. And pay through the nose if Asus CE490 Maximus 12 Extreme is anything to go by. It is, as the name suggests, extreme, packing in a variety of luxurious and convenient extras, a frickin' screwdriver with interchangeable heads for one, and it's also one of the highest performing Z490 boards we've tested. But it only really makes sense if you're buying a K-series Core i9 and genuinely intend to overclock the nuts off it. The Maximus 12 will allow you to get the highest clock speed out of your 1090K and won't turn it into a pile of molten slag while you're at it. The MSI Z490 Godlike is actually the fastest Z490 outright at stock speeds, but I'd rather have the ROG board in my camp if I'm going down the OCR route. Obviously, it's only for the very highest of high-end PC builds, however, the $750 price tag means you could actually build a respectable full gaming PC for the price of this single motherboard. It's an aspirational Z490 motherboard and arguably the best gaming motherboard for Comet Lake overclocking, but I'll concede it's not a particularly realistic purchase for most of us. Number 3 on the list is i90 Plus Wi-Fi. This is a gaming motherboard option for anyone looking to run Rocket League. Asus has always positioned its tough products as reliable options, with decent pricing and a more basic feature set. Combined it means this is a good affordable option for someone after a no-fuss, solid, and reliable system. And given the pricing of many Z590 motherboards, that makes for a welcome change. The tough Z590 Plus features a subtle design with a particularly nice white font. You get a couple of little splashes of RGB around the right side too. It's a nice look. There are 3 M.2 slots with the topmost one supporting PCIe 4.0. The 2 at the bottom are contained under a single heatsink. Also, note the vertical SATA ports that sticklers for cable management might find objectionable. There are a further 2 regular horizontal ports adjacent to the heatsink. You get 6 fan headers and 2 addressable RGB headers too. This is a board for anyone who would prefer to allocate money towards a faster GPU or larger SSD instead of paying through the nose for 10 GB LAN or expensive add-in cards. And I can totally get on board with that. Bang for buck and the true essentials are the name of the game here. If you're on a budget, it's definitely one to look out for. Number 2 on the list is Mortar Wi-Fi DDR4. As a slightly more affordable the Z690 boards out there, this MSI Mag B660M Mortar Wi-Fi DDR4 sacrifices some of the luxuries, yet still touts an impressive feature set. Not only are we looking at great power design, but this little micro ATX board manages to fit 8 ports on the back panel, including one USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C, and a bunch of internal headers on the board itself. There's no overclocking capability, or DDR5 support here, but seeing as it's one of the more affordable routes into the Alder Lake platform, it makes sense to go down the DDR4 path. There is a DDR5 version available in the UK, but we've not been able to find it in the US. All in all, it's an impressive sub-$200 board that will run the i9-12900K at stock settings. We'd suggest it as an ideal board to build an affordable, small form factor gaming PC around, and though there are DDR4-based Z690s offering more for your money, there are fewer of those. Number 1 on the list is Gears Pro 690 ORS Pro. It was almost inevitable that Dell's next-gen Alder Lake CPUs would end up being super expensive. That is compounded by the premium attached to anything which mentions DDR5, but Gigabyte's Z690 ORS Pro is almost bucking that trend by offering a rounded feature set along with DDR5 support. Sure, in the last CPU generation $300 plus was seen as high-end, but for the 12th gen platform that's positively mid-range. There are cheaper DDR4 boards around. Gigabyte also makes an ORS Pro in DDR4 flavor, too, though that's not sold in the US or EU. But if you want to get the absolute most out of the new Intel platform, you want DDR5. Well, when you can actually buy some anyway. Gigabyte has been smart about the way it's spec'd out the ORS Pro. By limiting it to just Wi-Fi 6 wireless and 2.5G Intel wired networking connections, and eschewing such unnecessary luxuries as Thunderbolt 4 or another M.2 slot. It has managed to keep the price at least relatively sensible. And it's a great performer, too, delivering system and gaming performance easily on par with the far more expensive boards we've also tested. The BIOS is maturing regularly as well, which makes us completely confident in recommending the Gigabyte board as our pick of the Z690 bunch.